Hello everyone, and this is C programming course. My name is Nuseek. It's like New York City, but obviously not in New York City. So I'm a representative of IT cluster Reactor and have some experience, more than 10 years with C programming language. And today we will start with lesson number 0. So what we are going to do, we'll make a simple program which called Hello World. It's interesting that Hello World program concept was introduced first in C language by Dennis Ritchie. That's very interesting. So let's try to open up Visual Studio. Before doing that, obviously you must install this Visual Studio. I use 2019 version, and it is a community version. You can download it for free from Microsoft website. I'll bring a link down in the description, maybe. And but if you have a later version, you can also download it. It's no problem. So assuming that you have installed Visual Studio, and also you need to install C++ stuff, its libraries and so on. And after doing that, you can press create new project, and let's try to write some program. Okay, so we're picking here empty project and going next. You can pick here a location. Ideally, you can create a new folder and then to write here something, or not, just leave it as it is. Okay, so we're pressing create. Okay, so our project is created, and we see that here in the right side of the screen we have some folders, and we need to press here source files. Let me press again. Okay, hopefully. Okay, you can see the words source file. So you can add and press new item. We will write C program, but I have to pick a C++ file. I will expand now, and just removing pp part, it will be just source.c. Okay, so adding this file, and as we see, a new file is introduced here. So let me write some code, and then I will explain it everything. Okay, and main. Oh, sorry, something wrong with my typing today. World. Okay, so that's a basic program which will print a hello world to our terminal. Okay, so let me explain first what is the source code actually, what is terminal, and some basic stuff. By the way, if you know how to run, compile and run hello world, you probably can move to next video. And let me explain to the rest of you what is the source code. Source code is basically comments to in some language, particularly in C, which will be converted to a machine code. Every machine has its own architecture and is its own machine code. So to make it easier to write source code for all computers, we have some high-level languages. Yeah, C is an example of high-level language, but actually it's not that high level. In either case, we don't have to write it in machine code, so we can write a simple instructions and it will convert it for us to machine code. The program which will and convert this source code is called a compiler. So you can see here that Visual Studio is a IDE, integrated development environment, which includes some editor, it includes compilers, it includes linkers. I will let you explain what is it, and you can run your program here. So if we run this program here, you just button a local Windows debugger, and then we can see that our program will print out hello world. Okay, so let's try to understand what this program, how this program works. So the program is an instruction set of legal operators, legal commands in certain language. For example, this line will instruct our compiler that we want to include a library. Okay, so we're including a standard input-output library. Input-output library. Okay, let me explain what is programming language and what is library particularly. So programming language is a set of commands, functions, operators, not functions, sorry, operators and other keywords, other syntactical constructions, which allows us to perform some operation in computer, so some calculations and so on. And a library is basically the same, and it does mean that some programmer is already written some code which we can reuse it. So it's like going to the library, taking book and reusing that information for your own investigation or whatever. So we basically library is a mechanism that allows us to reuse code which kindly was written by other programmers. And the thing is that if we want to write something in a terminal, we need to use special function, and which is called the printf, just a function, regular function actually, and this function takes one argument, it's called argument, which text we need to print out. So the general overview of this program is the following. We have a main program as an entry point of this program. An entry point is a place where a certain program starts when we run it. Okay, so we can have a lot of functions, but a lot of things in our program, but the first one which will be executed is a main program, main functions. Okay, so let me explain a bit about functions, how functions works, but we'll discuss it later. I'm just giving you some brief information, brief description, definition of what is function. So generally a function, like in mathematics, takes some argument, or when we have some x and we want to calculate something like quadratic equation, not quadratic equation, doesn't matter actually. If we want to, if we have x squared, then for if we have x equal to 3, y will be 9. So the value of the function in point x equal to 3 will equal to, the value will be 9. So similarly, function does some of the calculation and returns some value. You can think of, for example, ATM machine. Actually, when you put your card, it's kind of, you gave argument to this teller machine, right? And then you can execute some commands, some functions on this ATM. For example, you can withdraw money by pressing a command on the screen, and this will invoke this function, withdraw function, and also you pass as a parameter how much money you want to withdraw. So it's kind of an argument, and when it's try to withdraw, it will give you that money and print you a receipt. Okay, but of course functions may call another function. For example, you want to take $2,000, but who knows how much money do you have in your balance? Yeah, so you have to, so this program, this function, before giving you any money, will try to execute another function, which we will call another function, which will check your current balance. And if your current balance allows you to withdraw the money you specified, then you can obviously withdraw your money. Of course, there might be another logic, another extra logic which can be applied. For example, if there is a restriction for per transaction, how much money. If there is a restriction, for example, you cannot withdraw more than $500 per transaction. Even if you have $2,000, you can only withdraw 500. Okay, so it's another function which will be called, and so on and so forth. Generally, those functions can call each other in any level. It can be very deep in a deep level of calling function. One function calls another, and then the other function calls another, and so on. So currently we will discuss this printf function. Generally it can take several arguments, but we specified here one argument. We passed here one string. Let's describe what is string actually. String is a piece of text. We can assume it as a piece of text, and basically text is anything which can include any characters, right? Any characters. So we can, for example, print it to our terminal. Terminal is a special place when program can take your text from the user, or it can output information to the user. So it's like very old school way of communication between user and computer, but it's currently used very in vast majority of programs still, and each program actually has its own terminal. It's a legacy, but it is actively used by programmers, engineers, and some users, of course. Despite that, we have beautiful GUI interfaces. So, but terminals are alive still, and will alive forever probably. Okay, so we have a string which is called which describes hello, space world. And what does our program do actually? It just print out the string between these double quotes. So as you might understand, strings are enclosed to these double quotes, and also you can actually here write a special symbol, two symbols, which represent a new line in terminal. So as you can see, in terminal we have some characters, but after that we have something which tells us that our program is successfully executed and exited with code 0, some information which operating system has passed to us. Just don't mind about it. I want to talk about another thing. If you want to write some special symbols like new line or tab, you have to write its escape sequence. It's called an escape sequence when you try to write some special symbols which is not an alphabet or numbers or special or some symbols like dash and so on and so on. Yeah, so those symbols which are usually is not visible, like new line, it's visible, but I mean that it's not like character, it's not like a letter of an alphabet and so on. So to write it, you have to write this following combination. Why you just can't write here and enter? Because let me fix it. Okay, so why you can't write here just an enter as because this is a source code, you know. If you want to output something meaningful inside something, if you want to output something, it has another interpretation. I mean, everything in this code is that which will be printed to terminal is absolutely unrelated to our source code. Okay, so it's like we're taking some, it's an isolated thing. I mean that you cannot embed here, for example, a new line because it has its own thread. Okay, it's treated as a string which need to be printed, so you can't just write here. Okay, but if you have a file in which we have hello world and new line symbol, and you can read this file and output to the terminal successfully, it will work because you have isolated this text part from this file. Okay, so this file is main purpose is to write comments, right? So for specific text, if you want to write, you have to use a special string, a special data type string. It is in between two quotes. Okay, or you can load some file and output it to your terminal. Okay, so that's it about this function, and I think that it's quite simple program, and we can actually if everything is good on your side, we can actually move to another lesson. Yeah, just but before we go, I want to warn you that you have to write everything here as exactly as it is. For example, if you make here a simple mistake, for example, you forgot the n symbol, it will not compile, as you can see. Yeah, it will not. It is not valid program anymore. So you have to write function name correctly. You have to write enclosing opening double quotes and closing double quotes if you have and so on. You can't write here less sign, okay, because it's an opening, a less sign, and a greater than will be at the end of the library name. So this is a library name, and you have to write it also correctly. And do not confuse all those things, and if you write it correctly, it will compile and run. And the very last thing I want to tell about how to output double quote symbol, and if you want to output a double quote symbol, you just write an escape symbol backslash, writing a double quote. So this backslash says that we are using double quotes as an output symbol, not as a symbol that distinct start or the end of the string. So we know that string are enclosed by double quotes, and it indicates the first one indicates the start of the string, and the second one is execute as an end of the string. Okay, so in order to not to be confused with this one, we have to use this symbol. So we are telling to compiler that ignore this, do not assume this as a valid enclosure, string enclosure. Okay, so just print it as it is. So we are using escape symbol to output double quotes. Okay, so that's it. Next lesson I think will be interesting as well.